In the old days when we had a conference and wanted to engage with the city, when it came to education, you would go to the council and talk about the local authority for education and see who was available. But now with it all split into multi-academy trusts, it's sort of different people have different inputs into the city. So it's my pleasure to introduce Andy Mulcock to you. Andy is the Oh, it's coming up on the screen. There we are. He's the chair of the board of trustees of the Ted Wragg Multi-Academy Trust, which I think, is it 5 schools in Plymouth as well?
That's
as
right.
Yeah, up through. So Andy is going to share a little with us of his experience of where education's at and a little about sort of church involvement in that. But Andy is also the regional representative for Gather. Gather is part of the Evangelical Alliance, which inspires churches together because they are basically a unity movement looking across the country to see cities and towns changed through churches coming together. So Andy's also going to share something of Gather with us in the next few minutes. So over to you. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mark, so much for this invitation. Brilliant to be here with you. I'll probably keep you company here if that's all right. Yeah, just brilliant to be here. As Mark has said, I'm sort of wearing 2 hats. But I love coming to Plymouth. I love the way in Plymouth that the rivers all come together to make a sound. And that's, what, for me, is an expression of unity. And it's been part of my prayer for this city as well over the recent years. Think about how significant unity is. And that's why really I find myself with a small role with Gather Movement, just coordinating, encouraging unity movements in the Southwest. And if you haven't heard of Gather before, well then it's about 150 plus, probably grown to nearer 200 now, towns and cities where this thing happens across the UK. We network together because we sense God is doing something in the nation, and it's very, very noticeable that where we work together in unity across Christian faith communities, there is significant impact. And that love for one another does make a difference. But I'm also here, along with a load of resources for Gather Movement out at the back, as Mark said, because a while ago I was invited to be a trustee, a foundation trustee for the Ted Wragg Trust, which then was adopting church voluntary controlled, formerly schools, into our network of schools. And Ted Wragg Trust is across the geographical county of Devon. And I was very happy to be invited as a Christian to play my part in the board. A couple of years after that, they've actually invited me to chair the group. So the Ted Wragg Trust now has schools in Plymouth, and that's why it's relevant that I just come and share a few of the perspectives that I bring you from our trust, but also nationally. There are other trusts. There's all sorts of amazingly fantastic work. Our trust is not perfect by any means, but we are always looking to see improvement. But it's an ambitious trust because we believe in what's best for our communities. And we have this value around being hope-filled, if you like, ambitious, faith-filled, if you like. But to be ambitious for others, not for ourselves as a trust or organization. The value of selflessness is important. The value of collaboration is important. I find there's a real synergy between what I'm involved in day by day in different spheres. So if we have hope, we think we're seeing that we'll make the world a better place. So what are the challenges in education at the moment as we see? You may see others. I will not include everything in the next minute or two that we go through these, but this is a list that I'll be just talking us through and giving some suggestions as to what response might be like. So we are aware of poverty. And for the Ted Wragg Trust schools, you won't be able to see the detail of this, but I will just explain it to you. This is an index we use, the Income Deprivation Affecting Children Index. And 3 of the schools at the highest level of deprivation in the Ted Wragg Trust, 3 of the top 4 are Plymouth schools. Okay, just be aware of that. And Ted Wragg Trust has been invited to help and support schools. It's ended up adopting schools out of that kind of context. And so we know that we are in areas of need. And that's why it's brilliant for me to be here today and already hear about the work of Food Bank, the work around vulnerable families, and so on, because that's where we need to be involved. Collectively thinking, how can we work with schools strategically? Not just turning up with a dump of food at Christmas out of the blue, but thinking about what the combined ongoing program can look like. So addressing areas around poverty, family support work that we've been hearing about already today, lobbying, but also lobbying for better outcomes in this area. So more of that later. But there's a whole area around school readiness. A couple of facts there. Between a third and a half of children are not ready to start school when they do, from Kids Matter research. And yet, we also find that 52%, typically, of young preschool children have been a part of a church toddler group one way or another. And that's why Gather worked with others to produce a resource, which I've got some copies of available on the table at the back there. It's not just a parent and toddler group. We are preparing children and families to be involved in their education arena. So watch out for that. That booklet is available to you if you would like one. And it's preparing youngsters, preparing parents for how to begin school well and all that's needed. We are also aware in the current context, post-pandemic and lockdowns, of the rise of complaints of an empowered parent body who use social media considerably. And a lot of my time and other senior members of our staff's time has been taken with dealing with complaints and trying to sift out what the vexatious ones are and trying to improve because of the significant ones. Our responses are to be wise and discerning, not to engage in gossip around any trust or any school, but to really find out what's going on and to be finding out then really how we can help. We're also in a season really of great political change and also policy uncertainty. And schools are kind of on tenterhooks thinking, well, what's going to be happening next? What was going to happen with the recent pay award? How will our finances be stretched? Bit by bit, things are coming together to give us a picture for how things can go ahead. But what we do know is that as churches and groups of Christians who work together, we are those who love our communities. And we're here for the long haul. We're not those who come and go. So we can look for windows of opportunity to love our schools, love the communities that we're in, and express that practically and form lasting relationships. Because when the next government is installed, we'll still be here. When the next councillors come, we'll still be here. Let's play our part and be active in the education sector is my appeal. Here's 3 more key things that are significant for us at the moment. Attendance. And school refusers have increased, so attendance has slipped. Pre to post-pandemic, more or less 100% increase in the number of youngsters not in school on a daily basis. How can we help with anxiety issues, mental health challenges? These families are in our neighborhoods. People who are looking for help, being helped by the professional services, yes, but we also can play a part because there's a system overload. We're very, very stretched. So everyone needs a collaborative approach to saying, how can we work better for the future? That's why in education, you'll hear people now talking about place-based working strategies, where the location, the locality, and all agencies, services, voluntary and professional, work together for the good of children and young people. And that's then an open door opportunity for the church, for churches, localities to say, how can we be involved in this collaborative approach and how can we go forward? So we can pray, theme of this conference, absolutely vital. Pray for our local schools. Partner with them in any way we can. Encourage. Take a whole bunch of donuts and a basket of fruit in pre-Christmas for the staff. Just form strong, supportive, encouraging relationships. We have youth workers and children's workers. We are called to be sent into these communities, find ways if we can help to be engaged in these community hubs. You may have heard in Plymouth of All Saints School here, which is a Ted Wragg school, where the Burrington Community Hub is opening very, very soon. Community engagement, professionally driven, but in partnership with all sorts of agencies locally. These will make a difference. So look for opportunities to do that. There's venues for alternative provision is sought. Youngsters who struggle to be in school. There's a church in Exeter that's opened up building space for a whole 4-day-a-week alternative provision centre. There's another one that's in partnership with another school, linking youngsters into their venue on a daily basis with support from the school, just to make school a happier, safer place for some. There's an open door of opportunity, so let's see what we can do. And if you'd like to be a trustee or a governor, then I'm sure there are schools near you who'd be very interested to hear from you. So that's a little summary of some of the situations, some of the responses that we might face. So thank you so much for listening.